This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
You're listening to the Patriot Party Podcast. Now, on the show.
Well, tonight we have an added bonus for all of this fun because James Rogalski's with us tonight.
Yes.
And
to talk about the newest evil plan from Pinky and the Brain, otherwise known as the WHO.
And we have it printed out. I have the blueprint of the plan.
Well, not really, because it was like 197 pages
this
or
is
something
the big
ridiculous.
Part. This is the big part.
That's Article 3. Yeah.
James wants to talk about this specifically. He said, I want to talk about this and this alone. Yes, sir.
No, well, he can talk about whatever he wants. You know, that's how we roll around here. So
absolutely. But I thought we would educate ourselves to find out what these amendments that he's talking about are.
Unmute him. Welcome to the show.
I think he's muted on.
Yeah, unmute yourself on your end.
There you go.
How you doing?
Merry Christmas, almost, everybody.
5 days away.
So, how's it going on your end of the world, James?
Oh, I'll get some sleep next year, maybe at the end of the year sometime. I probably look like crap. I'm tired. But you got to do what the universe brings you. And so, where do you want to start? My goodness, ask me a question and I'll just start talking.
Well, where do we stand? Because I've heard different things, and I'm not sure.
Last time you were on, which wasn't very long ago, we were talking about the proposed amendments, but they were keeping them secret, and so we were some supposition about what they might be,
what they could be.
Yeah, but now apparently they've released them, right? Only 4 months late.
Let me do the thing that you're not supposed to do when you have a 2-hour show, and that's divulge all the goodies right at the beginning, so people can leave and go do whatever they want to do. I'm not supposed to do that, but I will.
That's fine.
They finally published on their own website 3 separate documents. One was the original in various languages. One was the English translations of those same things, which is about 197 pages. So 15 nations each submitted, roughly 10 to 15 pages or so. And then they had a super secret review committee, the International Health Regulations Review Committee, that only answered to Tedros. And so they met in secret for a couple of weeks and a couple of days on and off. And they distilled those 197 pages down to 46 pages of the densest, most difficult to read, sleep-inducing document that you'd ever want. Seriously, all week long, I'm working, trying to put articles out and get the information out. And then when it's time to go to sleep, I'll go, try to read some more, read it all over again. And it is a really good sedative, man. I'm just out. Okay. And so trying to make it so that people can not have to do that. Hopefully I'm providing a service. Don't take my word for it. Go read it yourself if you want to go through that torture. But I ended up boiling it down to 10 top items, and there's really 20, and so I'm going to come out with another one because there's really more. Every time I look at it, there's something else. I don't think that's the document that I sent you. The document I sent you is something totally different, and that's really what I want to talk about. But give everybody the background on what the WHO is doing. So out of the 10, all right, the first one that just jumped up and grabbed me by the throat when I was first read it, I literally, when I got the document and I started to read it, the first article is all definitions, and the second article is a little bit of something, but the third article, and I'll just read it because this is the crazy stuff. I read this earlier in the year for the very first time before these particular amendments came around, and I kind of thought, well, this isn't so bad. The very first principle of the international, I call them surveillance regulations, they call them international health regulations, but they're really all about surveillance. It says the implementation of these regulations shall be with full respect for the dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms of persons. And so when I read that, many months ago, I was like, well, that sounds okay. You guys okay with that? I mean, that sounds right.
I have an issue with that.
Well, the delegation from India put forth an proposed amendment, to cross out with respect for the dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms of persons. So they replaced that with a new set of priorities, which is the principles of equity, inclusivity, coherence, and here's a mouthful, and in accordance with their common but differentiated responsibilities of states parties, taking into consideration their social and economic development.
Compliance.
What that really means, all right, is, literally, they just crossed out that the whole core first principle of how everything that follows is supposed to be implemented. Forget about respect for your dignity, your human rights, and your fundamental freedoms. And so, for the person who just wants the soundbite, do you really need to read 197 pages? Do you really need to read 46 condensed pages? I'll go over a lot of the details so people realize that there's a lot more really horrible stuff in here. But they just took a hatchet and slashed through dignity, respect for your dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms.
So essentially, they went completely woke.
But yeah, they replaced it with equity and inclusion.
They went completely woke.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're trying to. Let's put it that way. These proposed amendments are that. And so I think you asked me, I think I heard, where do we stand with this? Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, my stance on this is, are you out of your freaking mind? No. Right? This shall not be allowed to happen. Right? But from a time perspective, their story, the official WHO story, is that, we're shooting for May of 2024. So, don't worry about this. That's a long way away, right? Except, a number of officials, and most obviously, the Indonesian Minister of Health at the G20 in Bali, it's a couple of months ago now, very clearly was quite proud that they had put forth amendments, and Indonesia did submit amendments, that they wanted to put forth they call it a digital global health certificate. And that's probably the most accurate name. Okay, it probably is. Other people call it a vaccine passport. They call it a digital ID. But it's more than just vaccines. They want to make it so that everybody has to have essentially a QR code that, yes, it could be on an app on a phone, but they realize there's, a couple of billion relatively poor people on the planet who don't have a phone. And so it could be printed on a piece of paper. It could be printed on an ID card, a driver's license, a piece of paper for that matter. And the whole point of it is they want all of the nations on Earth to organize their medical database systems so that they could have interoperability, right? They want everybody's systems to meet certain standards so that, when you go traveling and you take your QR code or you go to the restaurant or whatever, universally across the world, all those systems will talk to each other. And so then they would have access to your medical records, and at a whim, they could change the rules and go, well, you didn't take this drug, you didn't get that shot, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump, as we used to say back in my day. They can have any criteria to make your card read, negative. You're not good enough. Social credit system like in China. Mm-hmm. And I think so far we've only gotten to 2 out of the top 10, and really there's actually a top 20. I'll shut up and let you get a word in edgewise.
Well, actually, I got a question because I read a friend of mine sent me a document, and I don't know if you're aware of this. Have you ever seen the CDC's pandemic plan chart? Have you ever seen that? Their whole plan chart that actually walks you in from D-Day or 0 hour to 100 days plus.
Now you have to send me that. There's so many. I haven't seen that one.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. But one of the things they implement is a wristband.
Oh,
It has a number on it, and it's like a barcode.
Why don't they just tattoo it on your forearm?
That's crazy, because I was sitting there and I was looking at...
Because that would be beastly.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting there going, well, wait a minute. No, I've seen this before. And
All right, turn the stickers off, babe. I'm sorry. I can't.
I have had seen that before. And where did I saw that? It was in the movie Contagion.
Mm.
In the movie Contagion, they had right there, Matt Damon's character walks into the mall to buy his daughter a dress. Post like they got the vaccine and people are finally starting to get better and they're finally beating it. And he walks in and he points at his band. The guy scans his wristband and looks at his thing and lets him in. And I was like, I knew it. And this is them telling us, hey, look, this is next.
Yeah, predictive programming.
We're going to get that next. You watch, we're all going to be wearing bracelets, or we're going to have something in our wrist. Maybe Elon's going to come out with his little chip, and we're going to slip that in our wrist, and you're going to walk up, and you're going to scan your wrist to get in the building. It's coming.
By whatever means they do it, okay, they're very clearly, disrespecting us on every level. And let me just run through these 10 things that they're doing. We've actually done number 1 and number 6 and number 7. They also want to have passenger locator forms, which essentially is you've got to give them your itinerary if you're traveling so they know where you might be headed. Because if they want to track and trace you, maybe you only have a paper identification card. You don't have a GPS with Bluetooth or something that they can send a drone looking for you and find you. They also want to give much more dictatorial power to the director general. I call him the dictator general. The stuff that the Biden administration wanted to do back in March has made a comeback for round 2. Just declare an emergency whenever they want, a public health emergency of international concern. But and I'll just read this because all this document is a bunch of quotes from the bigger document. The Director General, on the basis of information received, maybe he's psychic and somebody whispered in his ear, who knows, may determine at any time to issue an intermediate public health alert. Kind of like almost being pregnant, right? It's almost an emergency. Make everybody afraid.
Is that like how the mayor of that one city, I can't remember where
Texas.
it is, but he said that all children are going to have to mask from January 3rd to January 15th because of
because we're having a problem off in the future.
Coming, yeah, exactly. Like he looked into his crystal ball and he said, "Oh, we're going to have a big problem over these 11 days. So all children have to wear masks over those 11 days." It's like that, right? Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that one's on page 9. On page 13, immediately after the determination of a public health emergency of international concern, the Director General shall, which means he must, right, make an immediate assessment of the availability and affordability of required health products and make recommendations, including an allocation mechanism. Okay? Immediately, he's got to know what everybody's going to need. Okay? Like if it's something new, how do you know what you need? Then, who shall also develop an allocation plan for health products so as to ensure, here we go again, equitable access to people of all states. Upon request of the WHO, nations shall ensure that the manufacturers within their territory supply the requested quantity of the health products to the WHO or other nations as directed by the WHO.
Good thing we don't do it here anymore.
Essentially, they would get to say, you've got to make this and give it to them.
It sounds like what they're setting up is, oh, your country decided to push the jabs into the ocean. Oh, well, you're not going to get any help from us. That's what it sounds like.
And it's what it's really coming down to is, it's Christmas time, and I'm all about giving, and it's all wonderful to help people who are less fortunate and give wonderful gifts and donations and whatever it may be. They're replacing human dignity, rights, and freedoms with equity, which is money. Okay, you don't have any rights. You do what Tedros tells you. Is really what it comes down to. Let me run through just a few more. This came from Bangladesh, who I thought at some point was actually given a little bit of pushback, but they said states, parties, meaning nations, recognize the WHO as the guidance and coordinating authority of international public health response during an emergency. Basically, if this were to go through and everyone was to agree to it, it's essentially saying the WHO is the boss of the world whenever they decide they want to declare an emergency. And a couple more.
No, and that goes to what I was just saying. I agree. I think that's exactly what it is. If your country did not participate in any of the jabs, or you didn't do something that the WHO wanted you to do, and oh, wait a minute, you made China look bad. And we know that the WHO is owned by China. So, America, you're not going to get any help from the WHO. You're not going to get any of these supplies.
Well, I ask everyone, what has the WHO done for anybody lately? Okay. And so two more, and then we'll move on to the next thing. States, that they call them states parties, but it's basically nations, may disclose personal data where essential for the purposes of assessing and managing a public health risk. So, a lot of people pay attention maybe to the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, and maybe a couple others, but the Fourth Amendment is your right to privacy in your person and in your papers, right? And so shoot your HIPAA regulations, meaning, your private medical information that's supposed to be just between you and your healthcare provider. They want access to it through that QR code, and they're clearly saying, yeah, we can share it with other people, all right? And last but not least, they buried this on page 36, and it's really very short, easy to understand. There's a section called Annex 1, where it's multiple pages of core capacities that the various nations are supposed to invest in to build, various infrastructure. And there's a little tiny section for the WHO, what they have to do. And at a global level, the WHO shall strengthen their capacities to counter misinformation and disinformation. So they're going to muscle up on their censorship.
Didn't they just hire the disinformation queen? What's her name? The sing-along gal that was head of the that was running the disinformation.
I know who you're talking about. I know
right?
exactly.
The one that did the was it? I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
Thing. She just got hired by the WHO.
Yeah, she got hired by either the WEF or the WHO or something like that.
Their informations are, their disinformations are.
Yep.
Well, she lasted like 2 days last time, but
yeah.
They're hurting for talent.
Apparently,
or they like her singing.
One of the two.
They should have stuck with Julie Andrews.
Yeah.
So the document that I sent you earlier is really what I want to have you. If you have it in front of you, I don't know if you do. It's really only a 2-page document. Is that?
Yep.
The People's Amendments. Okay. So I'm not psychic. I just read their stuff. And, I figured that this day was coming a couple of months ago, that at some point, even though they ignored, I did 4 separate FOIA requests, got a lot of delay emails. They stretched it out. A couple of different people from the United Kingdom put in Freedom of Information requests there. South Africa, Canada, Finland, New Zealand, Australia, a bunch of people did Freedom of Information requests. They all got delayed. The UK was my favorite. They said, yeah, we have it, but we're not going to give it to you because it might harm our relationship with the other nations. Okay. And interestingly enough, the UK didn't even submit anything. They're just going along for the ride. But they received all of the other ones from all the other nations, so they had them. Supposedly, Japan had published, or I should say, submitted a proposal, and it seems to have disappeared. I can't find it in their document. Theirs is missing. A couple of countries came in late. Malaysia had a big old submission, and they actually revealed something that has been hiding for quite some time, which was the original Russian submission from all the way back in April. And all of that stuff got boiled down, and the soundbite is Article 3. They're removing respect for your dignity, your human rights, and your fundamental freedoms. And so all the way back in October, I started having a daily Zoom meeting, and more than a handful of folks have helped craft counter propaganda before the propaganda came out. Okay, so the 46 pages of propaganda is the crappiest propaganda I've ever seen. Okay, it's like sleep-inducing, horrible typos, duplicated paragraphs. It's just a mess, right? And so if you have the 2-page thing that is the People's Amendments, Article 3, principles and unalienable rights, I would love to seriously talk about each and every one of those with you, because what I'm about to publish very soon, hopefully this video will go on that article before it goes out, is these are the things that they should be talking about. These are the things that people actually want and deserve and need to realize that we need to demand. Okay. Now, I'm not under any illusion that they are going to take this proposal and change Article 3 to do what the people want. All right. But the people should know the difference between what the WHO is attempting to do and what they should be doing. And once that becomes crystal clear, really the only answer is to exit the WHO. And so, you guys, did you get a chance to print that out, or did you print out the big one, or what do you have?
We got it right here.
Yeah, we print double-sided. So
okay, so I'm gonna rip through the first 4 because they are existing today. This is the current international health regulations. I read the first one multiple times. The implementation of these regulations shall be with full respect for the dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms of all people. Number 2 is guidance. The implementation of these regulations shall be guided by the Charter of the UN and the Constitution of the WHO. Now, nobody's read that. A lot of people are like, well, what the heck is that? There's many things in there, but for all intents and purposes, they give lip service to, human rights and all that. They don't actually follow it, but they're saying that they're supposed to. The goal of these regulations is to be guided by the universal application for the protection of all people of the world from the international spread of disease. Well, all this really is, the IHRs are really the international surveillance regulations. And, if you lived in the town over from me and the zombie apocalypse had, entered your town, I'd really appreciate a phone call. Okay. Right. Hey, Jim, they're headed, in your direction. You might want to take precautions.
who was talking? Oh, was that Sean that was talking about?
Yeah.
I just listened to that today. That was hysterical. Right. Yeah.
And so, but whether it is a flood or a hurricane or a tornado or whatever, if something's going on, if there's some kind of outbreak, and your neighbors didn't get the memo, it's like, hey, you live in Florida, you should probably roll down your hurricane window coverings and all that. Of course, we should have some kind of agreement amongst nations to alert people that we got a problem. And that problem might spread outside of our borders. So, you might have a problem too, just like to let you know. Okay. Number 4, it's national sovereignty. It says in the current international health regulations, this is the law of the, globe right now. States have, in accordance with the Charter of the UN and the principles of international law, the sovereign right to legislate and to implement legislation in pursuance of their health policies. In doing so, they should uphold the purpose and principles specified in these regulations. Well, they're really not following those rules. But I don't have too much of a problem with any of them. I changed a couple of words. They used the word person instead of people, and they kind of left out unalienable rights. But everything after that, starting with number 5, I'd love to get your opinion on it. Tell me how to make this better, so that when people look at this, they go, "Sounds good to me."
So
I'll let you do number 6. People don't want to hear me talk the whole time.
right to privacy. All people have
number 5. Number 5. Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I screwed you up. I meant to say
That's all good.
The importance of individual health over public health. The good of any people, its sum total and benefits enjoyed by each and every individual. The unalienable human rights of each individual supersede the privileges of any and all international organizations, nations, states, provinces, cities, and other groups to deserve.
So that
derive from their existence from we, the people of the world.
Hold on. Let's talk about that.
People of each individual, unalienable human rights. The only problem is what are we basing these rights on? Because some of these countries that we're talking about, they don't share the same freedoms that we do. Our freedoms, obviously, in the United States are vast in comparison to some of these countries.
Our unalienable human rights are laid out in the Constitution, but most of the rest of the world doesn't share that Constitution, or doesn't even know that they don't even know what their basic human rights are.
There you go. Okay, and so my opinion is that when your spirit incorporates itself into your body when you're born, okay, you made a contract with your maker, and your birth rights are what we call unalienable human rights. Now, some people may not understand that they have and should have and stand up for these rights. Some nations, abuse them. Obviously, India just wanted to wipe it out. Okay. The issue is, as a human being, it's not just that we have these rights in the United States. It's just that we've stood up for them in the United States, at least until lately. Okay? And so when the Constitution was written, it didn't give us these rights. The Constitution actually gave up certain enumerated powers to a brandy new, at the time, federal government. And we just tried to make it, or the people at the time, the founding fathers at the time said, look, we need a federal government to do certain things. Otherwise, we're just going to be squabbling amongst ourselves and dealing internationally and things like that. So they set up a government. They gave up some of their rights and authority to the government. And all the amendments Bill of Rights, are like, look, just so you're clear, we're not giving you this, that, or the other right over us. The federal government has rights in dealing with other countries and so forth and so on. And so we just, as Americans, generally are a little bit more aware that we should be standing up for these things. But it doesn't mean that people all around the world don't have those same human rights. They just have a habit, I guess you could call it, or they have a history of getting abused by their quote unquote leaders who just stomple all over it. And so if we're changing international health regulations, right, and these are the core principles by which these regulations are going to be implemented, let's understand what's going on here. When a human being creates something like a corporation or an organization, the creator controls the thing that they created, not the other way around. And so, the mistake that we've all fallen for is, we the people, way back when, created the federal government. We are its masters. They work for us. And somehow over 250 years, people have been taught otherwise and forgotten. It's like, I don't know, Frankenstein's monster, attacking Dr. Frankenstein. The creator of a corporation is the master of that corporation. And, same thing with government and everything else. People have just forgotten their standing, their place in the world. We are the masters of the WHO, not the other way around.
I think in this sentence, if you put the unalienable human rights of each individual, including personal sovereignty, supersede the privileges of any and all international organizations.
I'll step away and grab a pen.
States, provinces, etc. Just because if you guys understand where I'm coming from, I think personal sovereignty is kind of the all-encompassing.
Like, I have rights over my body.
Exactly.
You can't just do what you want with my body.
The basket of, everything.
Yes.
So I would say personal sovereignty encompasses it all for those countries, those people that don't know that they have the right to personal sovereignty. This tells them, hey, that is your unalienable right to do with your body what you will.
Yep. All right. Number 2. Number 6.
Number 6. The right to privacy. All people have an absolute unalienable right to privacy in their personal information, including health-related data. Every individual human being has the unalienable right to be free from any requirement to have or present any vaccine passport, digital ID, or health certificate of any kind, whether in printed or digital form.
I think you got to include the future on that one. You have to add anything that's implanted or put into the human body. Because if they're trying to put in these, if Elon's serious about putting in these little chips in our nuggets, they're going to say, well, look, we're not doing a card anymore. So we still make you happy, James, because there's no written card. You don't have to present it. No, you're right. Now they got a computer chip in your brain. They fly over
and any other format. Sure.
Yeah. Printed digital or biosynthetic form.
Yeah. Go down the litany.
Yeah.
Or any other form. I think that's just the way
or
to go.
any other form.
Number 7. Right to
That's a big one. Maybe you guys can tag team it.
Yeah, let me read this one. Right to express one's opinion. Every individual human being must always be free to fully express their own personal opinion, free from any threat of retribution. Only the free debate of different and competing opinions can provide an environment of informed decision-making by each country, state, county, community, family, and individual. Each individual has the right to publicly express their own opinion regarding the effectiveness or lack thereof of any health-related policy or treatment in spoken and or written form. Every person's experience is a valuable scientific observation and must not be censored. As more free debate and free expressions of ideas, facts, and data occur, each level of society will be able to decide for itself the best interventions to recommend for the control and management of any disease of concern. Any form of suppression of free public debate is strictly forbidden. Promotion of the public debate of competing points of view and access of the populations to that debate, plus the personal dialogue between patients and doctors, will ensure each individual and family to be sufficiently informed to make their own choices and decisions regarding their health. Under the principle of informed consent, no uniform behavior of all of the society will be required, and the autonomy of each individual as a citizen and patient are protected.
I mean, obviously you're trying to overcome cancel culture there and trying to get...
Well, especially with all the censored doctors.
Yeah, trying to get varying opinions out there. That one I don't have a problem with. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I like that.
That covers all of that. That makes it... locks it up where you can't go against it. I mean, I'm looking for a way that they could say, well, no, we suppress them because no, it says right there, it's strictly forbidden. Yeah. Any form of suppression of the free public debate is strictly forbidden. No, I think that covers it.
Now, you have the freedom to be as wrong as, anyone could imagine.
Yeah.
A person's
had to be right. We just said that you can't be suppressed. Nobody can trample your right to speak. Period.
And see, that's really what the problem is. Oh, you're wrong, so you have to shut up. How do you really know I'm wrong unless you let me tell you what I'm thinking?
If I get a cancer diagnosis and I want to take fenbendazole, curcumin, and CBD as a treatment instead of your poison mustard gas, then I should have the right to discuss that with my doctor. And if he doesn't agree with it, I should have the right to say, well, I'm going to go do it anyway.
Or find another doctor.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is an approved. It's not an approved cancer treatment, but it is fairly effective. So
right to provide information on prevention and healing. Number 8.
We're moving on. We gotta check on number 7.
Yeah,
Seven's good.
Great.
Seven's
Seven's
good.
great.
It's long, but it's good. It says exactly what it needs to say. The right to provide information on prevention and healing. Every individual human being has the right to provide information that is directed by their experience and wisdom, free from bureaucratic dictate, pressure or coercion. All people have an unalienable right to choose and ignore, to take action upon the information they receive, free from any form of censorship or coercion. Completely agree.
Yep.
I almost think those two could go together. I almost think you could make that one.
One of them is an opinion, and one of them is about actual health
and healing.
Information. Yeah.
So it would be like naturopathic doctors not being censored, giving a chance for them to.
Yeah, this is individuals, and these are healthcare providers.
Well, this actually very, very much on purpose. It's not about a kowtowing to medicine. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I don't say doctor in here anywhere.
Nope.
Because part of the problem, in my opinion, is that, you have to ask your doctor.
Stranglehold.
Well, I get advice from people who are not that, and it's better advice, and they need to be able to be free to give that advice. The advice that you're getting from your, indoctrinated medical professional is really crappy advice, in my opinion. Right?
Well, notice I said healthcare provider, not doctor, because that's a different thing entirely.
Well, even with that, okay. Health care, right? It actually has its own little limitation. Everybody, the wise woman grandma down the street, who learned from her great grandma about, whatever's growing in the neighborhood that helps you do whatever. We have to get away from believing that just because somebody has letters after their name, they have all of the information in the universe available to them. Okay? I have seen some things in my own personal life that are astonishing, and there's not a medical doctor in the world who would have the foggiest clue that anything would even be so possible. And so to even name them in this gives them credibility that I don't believe they deserve.
Yeah, I see where you're coming.
In that, on the second line there in number 8, free from bureaucratic dictate, I would almost put / mandate, because not everything comes out as a dictate. Some crap comes out as mandate. Our mandates, for instance, came from the CDC, who has no authority to provide any mandate whatsoever in the United States.
Hell, some of our mandates came from the mayor of a city that we didn't even live in.
Don't get me started.
On a medical device.
Don't get me started.
I know.
So I would just put a / I mean, it might be saying the same thing, but just include it somehow where it's dictate and mandate.
Right to choose. Every individual human being must always be free to use any preventative or therapeutic treatment interventions that they consider to be the best choice for them. This may include strategies such as lifestyle changes, food as medicine, vitamins, minerals, natural supplements, and repurposed essential medications that were previously approved for other diseases and have a long safety record. Withholding any of those optional strategies is a violation of an individual's unalienable right. Healthcare decisions must ultimately be made based on the individual's choice, not by bureaucratic dictate by government, academics, hospitals, clinics, medical practitioners, or, quote, public health experts.
Completely agree.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That you don't have to change 9 at all.
Yeah, that's perfect.
10, right to refuse treatment. Every individual human being will always have the right always retain the unalienable right to refuse any intervention recommended by any institution. The World Health Organization, governments at all levels, medical associations, hospitals, or healthcare providers. Each individual must be in control of the ultimate decision to utilize any and all health-related treatments, medications, and nutrition as they deem necessary to improve and or maintain their health. Decentralized clinical rationale by healthcare advisors and the right to informed dissent by patients will always be placed above any political interest and central. I get angry at this one, and it's not. I get angry because we have to say this. Why,
man?
This should not be something we have to say. This is crazy that right now you have to write a document to say shit. Like, we all know there's a way you treat fellow man. There's a way you treat people. You don't walk around and use them as pincushions and hope that works out for you, pal.
Hey, babe, remember what you told everyone not even a week ago, that when you were working as a paramedic, every single person that got rolled into our local hospital got a jab.
Yep.
Didn't matter if they already had a jab, if they'd had a jab the day before, if they'd never had a jab, if they had any allergies, didn't matter. Everyone that walked into that hospital, if they rolled in, if they were unconscious on a stretcher coming off an ambulance, they got a jab. I mean, that's just flat out insanity.
I just get angry at that because we do have the right. We have the right. You have the right to say no. No, you're not sticking me with anything.
No,
I thought no meant no. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it does, unless we're talking about the medical field. And if it's the medical field, then no means maybe yes.
Oh, we're getting to the children, because, man, that whole number 10 just brought those babies to we'll talk about that in a second. Number 11, right to travel freely upon the earth. Every individual human being has the unalienable right to move about the planet, and this right may not be made dependent upon health testing or treatment-based requirements. Each individual has the right to travel free from any lockdowns, quarantines, vaccine requirements, vaccine passports, digital IDs, mask mandates, social distancing, or any other attempts to impede their freedom of assembly or movement.
Patriot community is going to really be up in arms against this one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know it.
Well, I don't think we're going to be up in arms on it.
I think as facetious as I possibly could.
I know, but there is a piece to that I ask a question, because
there are some countries that you go to that you really should have some. Well, but who knows anymore? Honestly, I don't even know.
I ask a question about this because you're right. We should have the inalienable right to travel on this planet wherever we want to go. However, at the same time, I am reminded of a time here just recently when somebody called it the China flu, and he stopped travel from China, and everybody labeled him as a Zionist.
No.
Meanwhile, he was protecting his own country, saying, look, you just can't come to the U.S. anymore because you guys are sick. Whatever you guys got, it's over there. It hasn't affected us yet. And he put a travel ban on those people flying to China. Well, hell yeah, that should happen. If that's where the disease is, I don't want the disease to come to the U.S.
And this is the question, okay? Once you open up that slippery slope and you crack the egg of destroying individual rights, okay, it comes back and it bites you in the ass. And they go, well, if you want to lock them down, then we're going to lock you down. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's no study that I've seen anywhere that you can stop the movement of people and stop if it is the pathogen that floats in the air, it floats in the air. You're going to put up walls all the way to the moon to stop the air from going across. Okay. This is the part that people just conveniently like to be hypocritical about. Well, we want to lock you down, but you can't lock us down.
But I know that's what a lot of people are going to ask that question about. They're going to be like, well, wait a minute. If we're talking about protecting ourselves, and
then you give people the individual right to protect themselves. You give them the information that they need to make their own decision about their own personal health. So, I mean, if China has they claim to have another virus sweeping through there and everyone's going to die, then you put it out. The president puts it out. Hey, China has this virus that's sweeping through the country. We are recommending that you don't travel to China. We're not saying you can't. We're just saying we're recommending it. Not a requirement, a recommendation. You can recommend things all day long. I can do it or not. That's up to me.
Now, you can't have people accosting you and rubbing their Ebola sores on you. That's
Exactly.
a different question.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're making it, there's one person who I can't remember the name. They had a theory that it was actually a virus from outer space that came to Earth, and there was a meteor shower, and it sprayed all over the place. You got to realize that
was
COVID,
Jesus, actually. That came from Revelations.
COVID. No, it actually was a guy who said he had studied it. COVID showed up in blood in Europe in like samples that were taken or whatever, blood donations. I forget if it was September or October of 2019.
Yep.
So the whole Wuhan story that you just said ignores the fact that it was already in Europe, the European blood supply, if you believe all of this craziness. Okay? And so the problem that the WHO has is they're focused on surveillance, control, and lockdowns to stop the spread of a pathogen rather than any kind of immune building, health building, proper treatment and therapy. They are not talking at all about any of the many doctors who people got sick and they got well because the response was intelligent, because the doctors treated the patients, and many patients, many people treated themselves. They did all the many millions of things that people know to do. If it was such a horribly contagious and deadly pathogen, how come we're not all dead? Right? 99 point whatever percent of people survived. You can't, the whole idea with flattening the curve was never, and I don't know that I've ever really heard anybody talk about this. I don't know. It was to protect the healthcare industry, so that the hospitals wouldn't get swamped, right? All of the lockdown bullshit way back at the beginning was, oh my God, there's not going to be enough capacity in the hospitals. People are going to be waiting out in line. And, all of the videos that they had, even in New York, right? There was nobody there. Okay. And so the whole flatten the curve was conflated in people's minds with, well, if you lock yourself in your house and you don't interact with people, then the airborne virus can't spread all over the place and will contain it. Okay. But then, you open your door and you open your window. How are you containing an airborne something if that is what it is? Okay. And so there's this enormous hypocrisy. And the most interesting piece of it is these amendments were started by the Trump administration. They had a Republican minority report, committee. Essentially this wants to bash China, to blame them for something that was already in the European blood supply in September of 2019. Okay. And so the whole idea that people traveling around as opposed to people being healthy, right? I'm 62 years old. I maintain my health. I don't go to doctors. I don't take drugs. I don't get sick. Now, I'm not saying I'm impervious, okay? But the problem is the misunderstanding of locking people down is going to stop something that floats in the air. If anybody has seen, the masks with, people in the wintertime, with the air just coming out, or various other things, people doing vapes and things like that. The lockdowns, I still have never been able to understand curfew, right? The curfew is actually even worse.
Yeah, that was just straight control. I mean, there was no excuse for that. That was just pure control right there.
The restaurant thing where, as long as you're sitting and the virus is up here, you're okay. But when you stand up, you got to wear a mask. the absurdity of once you break the seal on, well, it's okay to do that to them. Okay, it's okay to take away their rights, right? But you can't take away mine, right? Anybody who truly appreciates freedom and stands up for it, you go, no, this is a fundamental human right. If somebody can say, you're not allowed to move about the world, right? Now there's personal private space, okay? Maybe you could say, look, I don't want to sit next to you on this plane because there's, you've got a health problem. Maybe the solution is airplanes. You take a sick flight or you take a non-sick flight, all right? But you still get to travel. There are other solutions that don't abuse people's fundamental human rights. I mean, somewhere along the way, I think I learned this. I haven't really had a chance to actually identify, where the language comes from, but that being held, right, is like being penned in, right? Mm-hmm. And so the definition of hell is you're not free to move, and they're treating us like, animals in a corral. Pardon?
It's an arrest. It's an arrest.
No,
it's an arrest. That's exactly what it is. It doesn't matter. For instance, when you're traveling down the fucking road, am I detaining you when I turn on my lights and I pull in behind you and I give you a ticket for speeding? No, I'm arresting you. You are stopping your movement because I'm turning my lights on. That is technically an arrest. What he just said, anytime they put bracelets on your wrists, that's an arrest. I think you let the cat out of the bag with this, and I'm not sure. What, again, is your end goal for this? This is going to who?
My end goal for this document is to find areas where the vast majority of people can find agreement. Okay? Now, I get it with this one about freedom to travel, and I see an awful lot of hypocrisy. Now, I'm not saying that nations can't have rules in terms of, well, you can't stay here. Okay, you can come and visit, you can travel about, but at some point, there are requirements for you to move here, become a citizen, all that kind of thing. Okay,
every country.
We're not talking open borders and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about restricting your ability to travel because you don't have the medical treatment that somebody says you are mandated to have. I mean, the minute we crack that seal on that and say, well, we can restrict that person, but not me.
No, right? I got you. I'm tracking. I'm the ultimate. What I'm talking about with the whole document. You want to present this to who? The who or?
Oh no, this is to inform.
This is for us
and have a discussion with Joe Sixpack, okay, average people, right? Patriots around the nation, around the world, say, look, this type of language is what the WHO should be amending their international health regulations. And if we don't know what we want and demand that our rights be respected, they're going to cross them out and say, well, we're not going to respect your dignity. We're not going to respect your human rights. We're not going to respect your fundamental freedoms. These are the fundamental freedoms that have been grossly abused over the last 3 years. And if you want to amend the regulations, then all of those regulations need to follow these rules of the road, if you will, these fundamental rights. No, we're not okay with you just crossing them out and wiping them out, right? We're going to pig pile on and demand that the ones you've been abusing are now even better protected. It's kind of sort of a health freedom bill of rights. And they're trying to take out, and I'm saying, look, we got to stand up and put them back in.
So then ultimately our goal is to get out of the who.
Yeah.
When you look at what this is, and I think, we got a few more to go, so we'll keep going. You guys got time, I hope.
Yep.
And so the vast majority of people, if they were to read the 46-page document that is the collection of amendments from 15 or 16 different nations, they're going to look at it and go, are you out of your mind? I don't want that, right? I think if they look at this 2-page document, which is kind of sort of written in English, and I think most people go, well, this all makes sense to me. Now, if somebody has an issue with this or that or the other, maybe things need to be reworded a little bit, and maybe we need to think about it and talk about it. I've been doing that for 2 months now, right? And so this is counter propaganda, honestly, before they've had a chance to run with their propaganda, right?
Yep.
If you showed this to any quote unquote patriot, okay, they might nitpick some of it, okay, but then you show them the first line where, how do you feel if somebody just came along and crossed this out and gave you none of this? You get none of this, and you get the first one crossed out, okay? Or are you going to stand up and fight for your rights?
I agree. And she's writing something next to the rights of children protected by their parents. So I'm sure she's going to add to that sentence for you.
I love it. I welcome it.
So number 12, the rights of children must be protected by their parents. Every parent has the unalienable right and the solemn obligation to ensure that all the unalienable rights of their children are defended.
No government or health authority has the right to supersede the parent's right to decide any health matter for their minor child.
For their child.
I want minor child. I think it's important that we discern because, I'm my mom's child. I'm 44. But I make my own health decisions, right?
18 and younger.
18 and under, because now, and there's some places now right here in the grand old United States where they say, oh, you know what? You're 12. You legally can have sex, so we can say that you have to get this jab and you don't have to tell your parents. Oh, that's in California.
James lives in California. He knows all about that. Sure.
And I want to say in Illinois as well.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That anyone over the age of 12 does not have to inform their parents if someone sticks a needle in their arm. Don't quote me on Illinois, but it's one of those other crazy blue states. So,
you mean when a parent goes to a school board meeting to stand up for the rights of their child, they shouldn't be considered to be a domestic terrorist? Is that what you're trying to say?
Or when parents...
Or you stand up to defend your child.
When parents go to a hospital and say, because their child has to have surgery, and you say, no, I want my child to have unvaccinated blood, and I've already got the donors lined up for it. Here they are. And the government takes the baby away from the parents. No, that is not cool. And I do want to, I want to make a clarification real quick, because obviously I'm talking about baby Will in New Zealand for all of y'all that aren't aware. There is another baby. I think his name is baby Alex.
Was another baby back in February. Right.
There was another baby Alex. His parents also fought for him to have unvaccinated blood, but they held up the paperwork. The hospital held up the paperwork. They didn't give it to the parents in time. He didn't even need to have the transfusion, but the doctor went ahead and did it as a precaution, and he died from a blood clot like a couple days later or a couple hours after his surgery or something.
Well, actually, no, it was much more gruesome than that. It was my understanding, it was a slow and horrible.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It kept growing and it wouldn't dissolve because it was one of those fibrous. It was an amyloid clot, not one of the regular blood clots. And he had multiple surgeries and he ended up dying. I think it was a week later. I'm digging the story up out of my head from last year, but or the beginning of this year. But there has been some things going around on the internet that the same thing happened to baby Will. People are confusing baby Alex and baby Will. That is not the case. So if you're seeing those memes about baby Will, that he was given vaccinated blood and he died from a blood clot a week later, that is not true. That is the story of baby Alex. It could still happen to Will, but it hasn't as of yet. So I want to clarify that because there's too much we get accused of disinformation a lot, where we tell the truth as much as possible. Sometimes we don't have the truth, and we make suppositions, and we tell people then, hey, this is our theory. But we want to clarify that, because there is too much actual misinformation that is going out, and it makes us look bad, us as Patriot alternative media. So anyway.
I woke up to an email with that story one morning quite a number of days ago. And luckily, I have a contact who the lawyer. I had reached out to their lawyer, so I reached out to her, and basically the word is recovery has been uneventful. So I guess no news is good news. So as far as I know, as of a couple of days ago, Will was doing just fine, and so
are his parents going to get him back?
Oh, I believe they have. It's not. They were. The surgery happened, and as far as I know, it was just they don't have legal authority to decide anything about health until I think January 31st or somewhere in that thing. Basically, they lost medical power of attorney or medical control, but I believe they're still with him.
They're not crazy.
The state took it because they live in New Zealand.
It's fucking retarded.
I know it is. It really is retarded.
If that had happened here, I wouldn't have stopped shooting.
I know. I mean, like, our kid had a cold. He missed the last 2 days of school before winter break because he had a cold, and his teacher didn't send him home, or he was coughing and sneezing, and he had a runny nose and whatnot. And his teacher was not freaking out. She was like, he's got a cold. He'll be fine. Right. But the last few days Mick was like, all right, he's not going to school tomorrow. He was rough. So what did I do? I pulled out my grandma's old recipe for honey cookies, and I made him elderberry honey cookies, and he ate like a dozen of them, and he stopped coughing because, and if I called up the doctor and I was like, hey, I'm going to make my kid some elderberry honey cookies instead of giving him the, codeine.
Yeah, Child Protective Services on you in that time.
Would have been at my door. Yeah.
They just
Parents should have the right, to stand up for their children's rights.
Period.
All right. We only got a few more. We're doing all right.
Right to be with friends and family. Every individual human being has the right to visit with family and friends who may be suffering through an illness in order to provide them with love and emotional support in any setting, both at home and in a hospital setting.
That's the only thing I'd add to that.
Yes. It is so important for you to have an advocate if you are in the hospital. It doesn't matter what you're in for. It doesn't matter if you're there for outpatient surgery where you go in at 6 a.m. and you're out by 1 p.m, or if you're going to be in there for a month, a day. It doesn't matter. You have to have an advocate. You have to have someone in the hospital with you.
Not a hospital appointed.
No, someone, a friend, a family member, someone who is going to stand up for you when you can't, someone who is going to make those decisions. Whether or not you give them medical power of attorney, you need to have someone at your bed saying, hey, his IV bag is empty. You need to change that. Hey, his machines are beeping. They're going off. You need to change that. Hey, he's been laying in this one position for about 12 hours. Can you help me move him onto his side or roll him over or something? We've been there. We've done this. It is imperative for you to have an advocate if you are in the hospital. That is why so many people died in the hospitals, because they refused to let anyone go in and advocate for their friends and family members who had a freaking cold.
Because they had COVID.
Yeah.
Oh my God, COVID. Right.
So that's what I would add to that.
Right to freedom from discrimination. Number 14. Each individual human being has the right to be free from discrimination based upon any demand upon any person to undergo any form of medical procedure, including testing. Discrimination based on personal health choices is unacceptable in employment or education matters when accessing public and private institutions, organizations, private businesses, or other locations, or in regards to any other issue. Discrimination based on medical status is wrong and must not be permitted in any form whatsoever. Completely agree.
Yeah. That sounds good.
That goes to
I got to admit, I'm fallible, okay? And man, there's a part of me that wants to be hypocritical and say, I want to discriminate against the people that are possibly going to shed on me. And so, but you have to look at it and you have to say, look, if you want to go and get jabbed and you want to be shedding all over the place, you can have boundaries. You can say, look, stay away from me and all that. But, these types of things cut both ways. And so when you abridge or abuse the rights of anybody else, okay, due to your fear, okay, then it's coming back at you.
Yeah.
And so, it's hard sometimes to be true to your principles. And these are all supposed to be principles, right? And rights. I've seen a lot of hypocrisy on both sides, right? Where, you can't do that to me, but I could do it to the next person, right? Or, that situation's different. You don't have any rights in that situation. It's like, that's not what unalienable human rights are, right?
So-
and now we're getting to the really good one.
I actually, with that though, again,
This is a good Patriot freedom discussion.
You're applying this to the world, a world that doesn't know freedom, a world that hasn't fought for freedom like our country has. You're trying to apply this across the globe, and I understand it does cross every boundary out there, but at the same time, this is one of our problems in America. We love to come up with all these rules. We have all these cool little nifty pieces of paper, the Declaration of Independence. But we also know that our government doesn't even watch them or look at them or read them or follow what they say. Because our Constitution, or what they call the Constitution today, is in a bastard version of a document that was written 200 years ago that our government just said, you know what? We're not even reading it anymore. We don't even care. We don't care what your first 10 bills. They're spying on us right now. They're just listening to this conversation.
Hi, Bob.
They're tracking our locations.
We call our FBI agent Bob. We don't know his name, but we call him FBI Bob. So
that's,
hi, Bob.
That's as good a guess as probably any. Yeah.
So
the last time,
maybe Bill. Yeah,
actually,
Bill.
they go by John a lot too.
Yeah,
I noticed
Joe.
that.
Mm-hmm.
John Smith, very weird.
Agent Anderson, whatever.
I get what you're saying about the discrimination, because I understand that. I was on that path for a long time. In fact, that's how I got my mom to stay pureblood until she got COVID. I kept her away from the jab. I was like, you want to get the jab to go to Europe, that's fine, but I can't let my children near you for at least 6 months and potentially a year until you've gone to a hematologist and you can show me that there's no more spike protein in your blood, so I don't risk you shedding on my children. That's your choice. You want to go to Europe? That's fine. You want to have Sunday dinner with your grandkids? It's one or the other. It's not, we can't do both for at least a year or for however long, depending on where they inject it in your body. It might be 3 weeks for the spike protein, might be 3 years. You don't know. Gets in that bloodstream, you're done. It worked. But now we've really been on the, I've had this feeling, this idea that once all of these people that have been so terribly injured from the jab, and they have such cognitive dissonance that they absolutely cannot, at this point, they're just starting to wake up to the fact that, oh my God, the government really did lie to us, and this shit really is poison, and this might be what's killing me. If we don't give them some kind of answer, if we don't give them at least a little bit of hope, then they're just going to die from despair. They're not critical thinkers. That's why they're in this situation in the first place, right? But that doesn't mean that they should die.
Right.
So we have to give them some kind of option. So I agree. I've tried to turn away from any fear. I try and quash any fear that's in me, because I don't believe in fear, just like I don't believe in stress or worry. Doesn't mean it doesn't affect me. I just don't give it anything in my heart or my body, because
fear rushes in wherever there is a deficiency of courage.
Exactly.
And, there's only one answer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying about that. Discrimination based on medical status is absolutely wrong and should not be permitted in any form whatsoever. I'm good with that. No derogation of rights during emergency. Every government, every corporation, every organization, and every individual human being must respect and honor everyone's unalienable rights, despite any declaration of a state of emergency by anyone. Governments do not have the authority to suspend human rights because of so-called emergencies. The declaration of an emergency does not give anyone the right to infringe upon anyone else's unalienable human rights. Every individual human being has the right to withhold their consent and refuse treatment of any kind at any time, regardless of whether there is a declared emergency or not, regardless of the scope and or severity of any disease, outbreak, or real pandemic. Human rights remain unalienable and may not be abridged. Refuse treatment, and any other intervention. Because they can say, "Oh, a mask isn't a treatment."
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And that actually jumps directly right back to number 14, because if you're not wearing a mask and you're not going to be given any service, that would be considered discrimination. Mm-hmm. So go for it and let's go. I can just jump back to this one. You're discriminating against me. You can't do that. It's illegal.
All right.
Dare. The WHO has no authority over we the people, number 16. As an organization that was created and sustained by we the people, the WHO has no authority whatsoever over its creators. Down with that?
Yep.
And last but not least, number 17, all rights retained. The enumeration of certain unalienable rights above shall not be construed to deny or disparage any other rights retained by the people.
That's basically the Ninth Amendment.
Yeah.
It's basically the catch-all. Catches everything. Look, anything we didn't cover in here?
Yeah, if we missed something, too bad. We got you here.
Exactly.
So, I like it. The hope and the dream and my effort is going to be to put this in front of as many people as possible. I will clean it up with your wonderful suggestions, and I'll send it back at you. It's been a 2-month work in progress, and this puts the kibosh on the whole rest of the 46 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the things that they want to do, so long as they don't violate any of these things, hey, talk all you want, okay? Now, what they really want to do is really found in the core capacities in Annex 1. And what that really boils down to is they want the WHO to be able to access gobs and gobs of money that comes in through a different channel, through some sort of fund. They have already created a pandemic fund, $10 billion a year, and I don't know if you've seen the clip, but the Malaysian health minister, who also said that he wanted to have the health certificate put through at the assembly this coming May, most people who saw that didn't see what he said afterwards, which was, hey, everybody, we've got this $10 billion pandemic fund, and it's a really great business opportunity. Go invest in companies that manufacture pandemic response products and services, right? And so this whole thing about equity has this flavor of discrimination, but it's only a euphemism for money. They want wealthy nations through this big fund to give Tedros and the WHO the ability to dole out the pork barrel, if you want to use a U.S. term, okay? You get a gene therapy manufacturing plant, and you get a gene therapy manufacturing plant, and you get some testing laboratories, and you get some, mask and PPE manufacturing, okay? But wait, you got to vote, and you got to join the treaty, and you got to vote for this. Otherwise, you don't get the money. Okay. Well, none of that's going to the United States or the UK or the European Union or any of that.
No, we're giving the money, but we don't produce anything here.
It's already been given. Okay. But the point is, the people in the smaller nations who are awake and aware actually see this as a modern day corporate colonialism. Mm-hmm. We'll take care of you, but you've got to poison your own people.
That's exactly what they want. They want, they talk about the New World Order. We've discussed this before. The New World Order is not new. It is the old world order. They want to go back to the old serfdom system. The worldwide colonialism is exactly right. They want, they want the 10,000 elites to be served by maybe 100,000 people that live in smart cities, maybe 100, a couple 100 million that live in smart cities that can do all the work for them. Like they want to go back to the old serf system.
Well, why do you think India walked in there and they crossed out respect, dignity for human rights and fundamental freedoms? That's because they currently live in a serf based system, and the people there, they're not allowed. If you're living in the ghetto in India, you're not allowed to have any of these rights. These aren't for you. These are only for the elites in India.
Not since Gandhi died, anyway.
Dang straight. India's become straight serfdom. There's nothing. It's all slavery over there.
Yeah. And so tied in with all of that investment are what they call core capacities. Okay. And they have, I keep forgetting the name of it. It's a review system that they will have a compliance committee that will make sure that all of the nations are doing as they're told, or basically, the money spigot dries up, and even if it can flow, oftentimes they do it with loans or any other kind of financial maneuvering to put nations either basically being bribed or extorted. And so the people who are in the money flow, right? Not necessarily the people who show up at the assembly, the quote unquote diplomats who are there. They're just little sock puppets doing what they're told to do. But, who's dishing out the contracts, right? That's something that's completely missing from any of these documents, right? There's no protocol for determining what the metrics should be to decide, well, oh, look, your healthcare system is such a mess. We need to help you out because your metrics, this, and the other thing. They had a meeting months ago now. They called it informal, focused conference. Okay, and they actually asked 4 of their experts. They said, what kind of metrics could we use that would determine whether or not a nation was well prepared for the next pandemic? And my jaw hit the floor because all 4 of them said, well, we thought we had a whole bunch of metrics lined up. That's what we were doing. And when these last 3 years hit, you would have thought Italy and Spain and Portugal and Germany and France and England and the United States, you would have thought they'd have done great. But they actually did really crappy, like worse than anybody. Mm-hmm. And the impoverished nations who did things that, we shall not talk about, right? They did much better. They didn't do, all the things that are getting pushed on everybody. And so the experts literally said, we don't know. Hey, we got no metrics, right? So they're setting up page after page after page of core capacities that you have to have, but yet the metrics actually show that what you're forcing people to do didn't work. But, that's what they're doing. It's just crazy.
And we have too much freedom. We don't comply enough to fall under their good pandemic response.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Because we must have been horrible because we were letting our people move around not wearing masks. Oh my God.
Oh my, yeah. DeSantis
How dare you? How dare you?
Horrible.
Oh wait, what am I doing?
How dare you?
Anywho, well, we appreciate you coming on, sir, and thank you for letting us take a look at this.
Yes,
and I'll be looking forward to get your amended copy, and we'll definitely kick that out as soon as we get your amended copy. We'll stick it in the.
And I started a Substack as well. That I started 2 of them actually, but the Patriot Party Pod Review. So I'll invite you as a cross collaborator when I put tonight's out on this interview, and I'll embed the video of just our portion of the interview in there, and I'll send it to you as a separate file as well.
I look forward to it. And as always, anybody watching, you can reach me directly at 310-619-3055, and the.
I'm trying to remember if I have your number up here. I don't think I do. No, I don't think I have his number. I have
the domain to go look at is stoptheamendments.com. And so, everything we've been talking about today, for the most part, is just one of 30 plus articles and 10 annexes that they're seeking to change. I just think this one is the red hot poker in their eyeball of, look, step number 1, stop stepping on our rights and our freedoms. You don't get to just cross it out and think we're going to just take it, right? We're going to up the game and say, look, we know that we have these rights and you can't trample them. And all of the other stuff that they're trying to do is mostly, for the most part, either control of trying to access your private health information with a QR code type system. And I will be publishing very soon. It's available now. You can see it. It's just not totally done. RejectDigitalEnslavement.com. And so they're trying to do that. They're trying to flow money into what I call the pharmaceutical hospital emergency industrial complex, which is fake. You know, they don't really know how to respond when someone is ill because they're not talking to doctors. They're not talking to the people who actually saved lives.
No, they're talking to administrators.
Yeah, they're talking to administrators, bureaucrats, and financial people. You know, the health minister from Indonesia is not a doctor; he's a banker.
Yep.
And
the health
follow the money.
Canada just dropped dead at the ripe old age of 35. So
Who was that?
The guy from Canada who was on their health.
He was on his fourth
a
jab?
deputy health minister or something like that. 35. He was
Died suddenly
pushing
in his sleep.
pushing the jabs, pushing the lockdowns, pushing the masks, pushing the control, pushing the tyranny.
Wanted everybody in Canada back in masks before
Done.
Christmas.
Yep.
Karma's a bitch, man.
35.
Karma's a bitch.
It really is.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, sir.
Yes.
And we look forward to it. Go to stoptheamendments.com. Is it stoptheamendments.com or is it thepeoplesamendments.com?
Either one. The stuff we were talking about today, mostly is thepeoplesamendments.com. You can get to one from the other. And you know, it's Christmas time. Everybody is, focused on life and family and good times. And it's very, very important to do all those sort of things. But they know that, and that's when they drop all this stuff. They're trying to push it. They're trying to push it through and submit it on January 15th of next year. It's quite possible coming to a stormtrooper near you by May. They say 2024, but I just see this as a blessing. I think that the Indian delegation making that change, putting it so obviously right there. That's part of God's plan to run these things through the devil to come to the WHO to test us. It's like, so you're going to read that and you're just going to sit on your butt and let it happen. Okay, well, I don't think you passed the test if that's what happens, what your response is. I saw that and I was like, how do you stop spreading the word about what they're trying to do? They tell you what they're trying to do. And, in one way, it's a massive test to see what people are made of. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Good input. I'll get editing on it.
Pleasure.
Made some
We
good
enjoy
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
And, find me somebody who disagrees with any of it, because that's what I'm trying to get. I'm trying,
To get
seriously,
the other opinion.
Yeah. And so I think most people will look at this and go, duh, of course. That's what freedom is supposed to be. But the real question is, are you going to stand up for it? Or are you just going to let them do what they say they're going to do to you, which is to just cross it out and go with equity, inclusivity, and what is it? Your differentiated but common, responsibilities. Yeah.
Well, bullshit. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Not a problem, sir.
Hey, don't forget what Thomas Jefferson said.
Yeah. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty.
That's right.
Merry Christmas. And most importantly, have a great holiday because we probably won't see you before the new year. Enjoy your new year. And we'll see you when you come back, hopefully after
we'll see
the new
you
year.
soon.
Thank you. Send me this link as soon as you can. I'll get it out there.
Will do, sir. Not a problem. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Again, folks, stoptheamendments.com. Stoptheamendments.com. Go there, check it out. You can check out the document that we just read tonight and we just marked up, and
the People's Amendments.
We'll get some changes in there, and hey, we can say we're all part of it. You know what I'm saying? Shit. Oh, works out. Works good. There you go.
Yes.